This is Echoed Stories, where every echo has a story. To our amazing viewers, welcome and thank you. Your presence makes these stories worth telling. We'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Now, let's dive into today's story. The Warfighter's Legacy, Bloodlines, by Mario Gear. Chapter 1, 4 months later. The wind outside howled through the cracked windows of the old ranch house, like it was trying to remind me this place was never meant to be a home again. I inherited it after my father passed, but I never planned to come back, let alone with 2 kids in tow, both clinging to what little sense of normalcy they had left. Kylie was curled up on the couch with Jimmy beside her. The television buzzed low in the background, casting flickering shadows across their faces. The air smelled like dust, old Vicks Vapor Rub, and last night's takeout. I hadn't cooked in weeks. It had been 4 months since the SUV explosion. For months since everything we thought we knew got torn apart. For months of silence, fractured routines, and conversations we never finished. Jimmy sat with an old sketch pad in his lap, flipping through pages, soldiers, fire, helicopters. Things a kid his age shouldn't have to draw just to feel sane. Kylie leaned into him, her head resting against his shoulder, eyes far away, like she wasn't in the room at all. From the kitchen doorway, I watched them, not saying a word. These moments were delicate, too rare to interrupt. Then Jimmy spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "You remember the sound?" Kylie blinked, her voice soft. "The boom. Yeah, like a dragon roaring and glass raining." I felt a chill crawl on my spine. "I don't remember much," Kylie added. "Just Mom screaming. You were holding my hand. Then the car flipped." Jimmy nodded. "She looked scared before it happened. Remember?" "Yeah." She kept checking her phone. I think she knew something was coming. That's when I stepped in. The floor creaked under my boots as I crossed into the room. "You two doing okay?" They nodded, but didn't say anything. They never did when I asked, and I'd stopped expecting an answer that wasn't just silence. Later that night, after the kids were asleep and the house settled into its usual eerie quiet, I sat alone at the dining table under a flickering bulb. A stack of papers lay spread out in front of me. Medical reports, old bank statements, and one envelope from the VA stamped in bold red. Urgent. Outstanding repayment. Ignored. I clenched my jaw. That loan had been paid. I'd wired the money myself before the accident. Emma even confirmed she received it. So why hadn't it been closed out? And why the sudden move back into the family home? No warning. No heads up. Just a pile of boxes dumped on the front porch like an eviction notice. I remembered the tension that day. Emma wouldn't look me in the eye. James Jr. barely said 2 words. And then I remembered the things they did say. "He's off playing hero," Emma had snapped, bitter and sharp. "He doesn't care. Never did," James Jr. had muttered while walking past me. That line stuck with me. The kind that haunts you at 2 a.m. when there's nothing but shadows and regret for company. I took a slow sip from a chipped mug and looked toward the drawer I kept locked. Inside was the folder, Cerberus, the ghost that wouldn't die. The Black Ops shadow company that had tried to erase me. I'd watched them bleed, contract by contract, like a beast slowly losing its heads. One by one, they were falling. And soon, the one who mattered most would run out of places to hide. But it wasn't just Cerberus that haunted me. I reached into the folder and pulled out an old photo, weather creased. My wife, Sophia, glowing, pregnant with our son, Julian. The last photo I ever took of her. They were both dead now. Stolen from me by a drunk kid with a fake smile and a father who pulled strings in every direction. A 17-year-old who walked out of court with a broken wrist and a smirk. I never saw the trial. Never got to bury them. The feds flagged me before I could get on the plane. National security risk, they said. Lock me up in a federal supermax for review. That was the word they used. Review. As if grief could be audited. I never got justice. Never got closure. And that kid, now man, was still out there. I reached into the back of the drawer and pulled out an old burner phone. Tomorrow, I'll make a call. I didn't know if he'd changed. If he'd found God. If he repented. Or if he just buried it all like everyone else did. But I needed to know. I needed to look him in the eyes. Because some debts, they aren't paid in dollars. They're paid in truth and blood. Chapter 2, Unforgiven. The morning air bit harder than it should have. I stepped outside before the sun could clear the hills, boots crunching on frost-laced gravel, breath fogging in front of me. The driveway stretched out like a frozen reminder of what was lost of what still lingered. I hadn't slept. Men like me, we don't sleep. We wait. We pace. We calculate. Inside, Kylie and Jimmy were still asleep. Kylie had started waking up from nightmares again, gripping her sheets so tight her fingers turned white. Jimmy, he didn't talk about school anymore. He didn't talk much at all. One parent was still in a coma. The other? Emotionally comatose. And me? I wasn't built for this. I was forged in war, not in bedtime routines and grocery lists. I was a soldier, designed to eliminate threats, not raise the aftermath. But the universe doesn't care what you're built for. It just hands you the pieces and says, figure it out. I lit a cigarette, watched the smoke curl skyward. My hands weren't shaking, but I knew what was coming. I could feel it, like the itch beneath scar tissue. A reckoning. Back in the kitchen, I laid the files out across the table like a battlefield. Court transcripts, accident reports, classified internal memos, ones I shouldn't have had, but let's just say favors don't expire in my world. I flipped to the last page of the court docket. Defendant, Michael Rourke, Jr. My stomach turned. Rourke. It hit like shrapnel through my chest. Not just a name, a wound. Major Mike Rourke, my old CO. My teammate. My brother in arms. The man I begged command to let me go back for. We were in a black op gone sideways. Enemies closing in. Radio silent. No extraction window. I made it out. Barely. He didn't. Or so they said. I saw him last, backlit by tracer fire, surrounded and holding the line so we could get out. And they buried him like an afterthought. No mission debrief. No press. Just a flag and a lie. Now, years later, his son, the boy he always bragged about, was the one who took Sophia and Julian from me. No accident. No drunk driver. This was revenge. My jaw clenched. My vision blurred for half a second. Then the burner phone buzzed. No number. Just a link. Download video file. confession_org.mp4. I opened it. The video was low quality, pixelated. A prison interview room. There he was, Michael Rourke Jr., eyes dark, hair shaggy, face worn like someone who stopped pretending a long time ago. He looked into the camera and spoke like he was spitting glass. You think I didn't know who she was? Who they were? You took my father. You left him to rot while you got medals and new orders. I was supposed to die too, but I didn't. I made sure you felt it. The way I felt it when they buried an empty casket. He leaned closer. His voice dropped. You should thank your government, Castillo. They knew I'd come for you. So they buried the truth, just like they buried him. The video cut out. My hands didn't shake. Not because I wasn't furious, but because the fury had passed into something colder, cleaner. I sat there, frozen. Not from shock, but from confirmation. They knew. They let me believe it was an accident. Because they knew what I'd do if I ever found out. They were right. I reached for the phone. It was time to call in a marker and burn whatever bridges I still had left. Because if the system wouldn't give me justice, then I'd carve it out myself. Chapter 3. Call in the Devil. The rain came hard that night, hammering the tin roof of my garage like a war drum. I paced the floor with a burner phone in one hand, a half-smoked cigar in the other. That video hadn't left my head. Michael Rourke Jr. hadn't just taken my family. He made sure I felt it. And the bastards in the brass? They let it happen. They let me grieve thinking it was fate, thinking it was just another senseless tragedy in a world full of them. But it wasn't senseless. It was engineered. I took a breath, the kind you take before crossing a line you don't come back from, and dialed a number I hadn't touched in 7 years. It rang once, twice, a third time, then a click. A voice answered, gravel thick and worn like old leather. This line's been dead a while, Castillo. Then dig it up, I said, dead calm. There was a pause, then a slow breath on the other end. You only call when you're about to burn something down. I'm halfway through the fire already, I told him. I need a face-to-face with a convict at Florence Supermax. Name? Michael Rourke Jr. Silence. You sure about that? That kid's buried under 6 layers of red tape and national security flags. You don't get in there without a miracle or a death wish. Then I guess I'm both, I said. Another pause. All right, I'll see what I can stir. But if anyone finds out I helped you, I'll be in a body bag by dawn. You always were dramatic. And you've always been radioactive, Mario. Poison. Now you want to walk into the belly of the beast. No, I muttered, stepping into the storm. I want to walk out of it with the truth. By nightfall, the machine had started turning. Old contacts, former shell agencies, a forged clearance request routed through an off-book psychological review. It wouldn't hold forever, but it would hold long enough. The kind of request that raised no flags because it was built by the very people who used to erase them. If it backfired, so be it. I wasn't looking for safety. I was looking for certainty. Next morning, I stood over the kitchen counter, eyes locked on an old map folded along the creases of too many deployments. Jimmy wandered in, sleepy-eyed, rubbing his neck. "Where are you going?" he asked. I didn't lie, didn't sugarcoat. I folded the map. "Colorado. Business. Will you be back?" I didn't answer right away. I knelt down, put a hand on his shoulder, steady and strong. "Watch over Kylie. Be strong. No matter what happens, you trust me." He nodded. "I trust you." I stood, grabbed my duffel bag, and stepped out into the fog. Didn't look back. Because what waited for me at Florence Supermax wasn't just a meeting. It was a reckoning. Chapter 4, Deadweight. The rain had stopped, but the sky above still hung heavy, thick with stormlight and tension, like the weather knew something was coming. My truck rolled slow through the neighborhood I once called home. The house looked like a tomb now, the kind of place ghosts visited but never stayed in. The porch light was out. Emma's SUV sat crooked in the driveway, like it hadn't moved in days. We'd pushed through cracked concrete like no one had bothered to care anymore. I killed the engine and stepped out. Didn't knock. Didn't have to. She was in the kitchen, mug in hand, steam curling up like it was trying to escape. Her eyes didn't flinch when I walked in. Didn't blink. It was like she'd been waiting for me all this time. "You're heading out," she said softly. "You always were good at reading my face." "Where to?" "Florence. I need to see him." Her fingers curled tighter around the ceramic. But she didn't say don't go. Didn't even try. "Mario, that's not going to bring her back." "I'm not going for peace, Emma. I'm going for answers." I stepped closer, the air thick between us, loaded with too many unspoken years, too many broken trusts. "Why did you and James move back into the family house so suddenly? Why did the VA loan disappear like it never existed? Don't tell me you forgot." I saw the wire confirmation. "You got the money." She looked away. That told me everything. We were scared. Of what? Not what, who. She set the mug down, leaned against the counter like she was holding herself together with muscle memory. "James started getting these calls. Blocked numbers. A man with a voice like steel and ice. Said he knew things about you. About what happened overseas. About Rourke." My pulse didn't change, but inside, I was already drawing battle lines. "He threatened you?" She nodded. Said if we didn't cooperate, if we didn't keep our distance, something would happen. First we thought it was some scam. Then a package showed up. She paused, then swallowed. It had pictures. Of our house. Of Kylie and Jimmy. The air turned cold. "We panicked," she whispered. "We thought maybe if we pulled away from you, moved back to the family place, stopped taking your help, maybe they'd leave us alone. So you cut me out. Threw me to the wolves." She didn't respond. "And the money?" "Gone. Wiped out. Some offshore account. James tried to trace it. Every time he got close, something pushed back." She stepped back. Then the accident happened, and everything unraveled. I stared at her, my fists clenched without thinking. "You should have come to me. We didn't know who to trust," she said. "And James, he thought you'd blame him. Said you always saw him as a coward. He wasn't wrong. He was scared, Mario. He was never like you. He was the one left behind. You were the soldier, the one Dad bragged about, the one who never failed. James, he always felt like dead weight." I exhaled long and slow. Dead weight. The words echoed. This wasn't just about Rourke. Not anymore. This was bigger, coordinated, calculated. "I have one more question," I said, voice low. "What? Did you know who he was?" "The kid who killed Sophia and Julian." She went pale. "No, not at first. But after the trial, the sealed files. James started piecing it together. He thought the government covered it up. Thought they were afraid of what you'd do if you found out." "They were right," I said. I turned, heading for the door. "Mario, I don't stop, Emma. You know that." I didn't wait for a reply. Didn't look back. The storm had passed, but the war was just getting started. Chapter 5, The Approach. Florence, Colorado. A dead town with razor wire for a spine. ADX Florence stood like a concrete tomb at the edge of the horizon, gray towers punching into a sky that didn't smile. The kind of place built for men the system wanted to forget or pretend never existed in the first place. I rolled up to the last checkpoint with my forged credentials in hand. Paperwork clean enough to pass a board CO, just dirty enough to be believable. My name wasn't even on it, just an old alias from a black mission I was never supposed to come back from. They waved me through. One of the guards, tight cut, young, didn't ask questions, leaned in. You've got 20 minutes. No contact. No extensions. You get what you get. Copy, I said. I parked, stepped out, and popped the trunk. Inside, a slim black briefcase. Two things in it. One, a psych evaluation clipboard to keep the cover story intact. I was here on official follow-up, tied to Rourke's father and some classified fallout. The brass would eat it up if they ever checked. Two, a sealed pouch holding a burner phone wired to 4 synced micro cameras already streaming. I don't play fair. Never did. The preparation. The visitation prep room smelled like bleach and regret. 2 guards watched me like I was a risk profile. Not because of anything I said, but because I moved different. I made sure of it. One scanned the briefcase. Another frisked me. Neither checked the lining. They didn't notice the cameras. Didn't notice the setup had already been done. Days ago, paid in Bitcoin through a man who owed me 3 favors and half a soul. 1 camera in the ceiling bolt. 1 in the corner vent. Another pointed at the door. And a 4th? Hidden under the table, watching everything from below. Each one synced to a kill switch inside the briefcase. If I died in that room, the footage would hit 3 dead drops. From there, straight into the light. Waiting. They brought me into the visitation chamber. It was quiet. Too quiet. Concrete walls. Plexiglass. 1 table. 1 chair on each side. No restraints. No hope. That's what Florence did. It made people forget they were still alive. I sat down, briefcase on the table, fingers laced. I didn't breathe deep. Didn't shift. I just stared at the empty chair across from me and said it under my breath. Come on, you little bastard. Let's see what's left of the fire. 4 minutes to go. The guard said 20 minutes. But I only needed 10. 5 if he lied. Chapter 6, for nothing. The steel door groaned behind the plexiglass. That low, hollow echo you only hear in places built to strip hope out of men. Then the chains came, clinking, dragging. 2 guards brought him in, wrists and ankles shackled. Michael Rourke Jr. I'd watched his video confession a dozen times before this. Memorized every twitch, every word. But seeing him in person, he looked thinner, paler, hair longer, hanging in oily strands. There was a bitterness in his eyes that didn't belong to someone who was sorry. It belonged to someone who thought he was right. He didn't look at me when he sat down. Didn't have to. The hate in the air was thick enough to taste. Take the cuffs off, I said. The senior guard frowned. That's not protocol. I want to see his hands when he lies. He hesitated, but he did it. Rourke flexed his fingers like it hurt. Maybe it did. The guards left. The door slammed shut. And it was just us. He leaned forward, eyes still avoiding mine. I wondered if this day would come. They told me you'd never show. They were wrong, I said. Just like your father was the day he left you behind. That landed. A flicker, corner of his lip, a quick tick in his temple. You left him. I followed orders. Something you wouldn't understand. He trusted you, and he died because of it. That's what they told you. His voice dropped. I watched my mother wait by the window every day for a flag that never came. Watched them bury an empty casket, and you got medals. I didn't flinch. So you kill my wife, my son, for closure? It wasn't supposed to go down like that. But it did. You planned it, and you bragged about it. You took 2 lives over a grudge built on a half-truth. He said nothing. I opened the briefcase, tapped the burner phone. For screens lit up. Every angle, every breath recorded. He stiffened. What is this? Insurance. The world's going to hear what you did. You don't get to hide behind concrete and steel. What more do you want? Blood? No, I said, voice sharp. I want truth. Not the one they fed you. The real one. I leaned forward. Your father's not dead. Silence. He froze. Eyes locked on mine now. What? You heard me. We got him out. Quiet. Off book. He was captured, but we recovered him a week later. The brass ghosted him. And you're lying. You killed an innocent woman and child for nothing. He broke then. Not all at once. But I saw it. His hands trembled. His breathing changed. A weight dropped behind his eyes. They told me. They lied. And you let them turn you into a murderer. I slid the flash drive across the table. Photos. A voice file. Your father. Saying your name. He didn't touch it. Didn't even blink. Just stared. Regret bloomed across his face like a storm cloud. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Tried again. You don't understand what it was like. I do. That's the problem. I stood, grabbed the briefcase, the phone. You don't deserve forgiveness. But now you know the truth, and you're going to rot with it. I paused at the door. And if your father ever finds out what you did, I looked over my shoulder, dead calm. Pray I get to you first. The door opened. I walked out, not with peace, but with power. Because now, the truth wasn't a burden. It was a weapon. Chapter 7. No More Shadows. The hum of the engine was steady as I drove through the dark Colorado hills. Florence was behind me, its cages and ghosts sealed back inside. But I didn't feel lighter. I felt focused. What I just heard from Rourke Jr. hadn't given me peace. It had sharpened something inside me. Cold, precise, dangerous. That bastard had confessed, admitted what he did. But the motive, the one I thought I knew, was gone, replaced by something worse. He hadn't killed Sophia and Julian by accident. He had done it believing his father was dead, because someone wanted him to believe it, because someone needed me broken. The question now wasn't why. It was who. I checked into a roadside motel an hour north. One of those places that looked like it hadn't had a fresh coat of paint since the 90s. I didn't need luxury. I needed quiet. Inside, I set up fast, pulled out the laptop, jacked into an old server I hadn't touched in years, a ghost network from my time with Task Force Helix. The encryption still held. Buried deep in the system, I found a file I'd forgotten existed. Project Echo. It wasn't a mission. It was a repatriation protocol, something for when assets were extracted but couldn't be returned to the system. There it was, coordinates. Outside Kandahar, a facility I'd heard whispers about, long after we'd supposedly shut it down. But this one, it was still live. And worse, it had ties to Cerberus. You son of a bitch, I muttered. You didn't ghost him, you kept him. Before I left, I sent a message, encrypted, routed through 4 dead nodes, straight to the one person who could chase shadows through a firewall. Dr. Marcus Rain, CTO of Phantom Circuit. My friend, my backdoor. To M. Rain. Subject, follow the money. Emma said the threat started when James got a wire transfer. The VA loan vanished. Find out where it went. Trace it. Start with the Caymans. Look for anything tied to Cerberus. M. I didn't have to wait long. Marcus was fast. From M. Rain. You were right. Funds were rerouted through a VA-connected account. Hit a dummy shell in the Caymans, then funneled through Dubai. It's Cerberus. High-level wash protocol. And Mario. The account was tagged contingency burn-off. If something happened to you, the money disappears. They weren't trying to warn you. They were preparing to erase you. I stared at the motel wall, the map now covered in red lines. Everything pointed back to that site near Kandahar. Rourke Sr. wasn't dead. He wasn't even free. He was still in play, just another piece on their board. But I wasn't playing their game anymore. I was flipping the table. I loaded a fresh mag into my sidearm, zipped the briefcase shut, burned the motel keycard in the sink, and crushed the chip with my boot. Because now it wasn't about justice. It was about reclamation. And if Cerberus still had a grip on one piece of my life, I was going to rip it from their spine. Chapter 8. The Quiet Before the Breach. The safe house in Istanbul was colder than I remembered. Just 4 concrete walls, no cameras, no noise. Only the wind whispering through a cracked ventilation duct like it was afraid to speak. Good. Fear was honest. This wasn't just a stopover. It was a staging ground, a ghost nest. I moved through it like muscle memory, checking gear, verifying comms, pacing out every inch of exit routes I already knew like the back of my hand. This wasn't the kind of place you slept in. It was the kind of place you got your head right before you stepped into hell. On the table before me, I'd laid out everything I'd need. Suppressed Glock 19, 2 mags of frangible rounds, a customized SATCOM unit rigged to Rain's private relay, tactical overlays of Kandahar, satellite and hand-drawn, and 1 photo, black and white, grainy as hell but clear enough. Major Mike Rourke, alive, standing inside the gates of that Cerberus black site. Not dead, not buried, not even retired. They'd kept him. I sat at the table and opened a fresh notepad. No tech, just ink and willpower. Wrote my objectives down by hand, because sometimes that's how you commit to war. Primary objective: confirm Rourke Sr.'s condition. Extract if viable. Secondary objective: secure intel tying Cerberus to Rourke Jr.'s vendetta. Confirm, cover up. Tertiary objective: burn the site. Not figuratively. Literally. Beside the notepad was a thumb-sized drive Rain had sent me. He called it a surveillance scrambler. supposed to eat every camera system in a 30-meter radius for 30 seconds. Just enough time to disappear or reappear. I pocketed it, then zipped the duffel shut, checked it twice, sat down and stared at the wall for a while. Sometimes the quiet before the breach is the most dangerous part, because that's when the mind starts asking questions it already knows the answers to. I didn't let myself ask if Rourke was still in there. I let myself plan for when I pulled him out. Back in Virginia, Marcus Rain was doing his part, hunched over 6 terminals like a symphony of paranoia. He wasn't just chasing funds anymore. He was digging into something deeper. He pinged me before I could even finish packing. From Rain, found something in the Caymans. The account Emma mentioned. Yeah, that wasn't just hush money. It was operational funding. Still live. And it's moving again. Locations flagged. San Diego, Las Vegas, San Jose. I felt the hairs rise on the back of my neck. That last one, too close to home. If Cerberus was still running ops stateside, if those funds were active, it meant this wasn't just fallout. It was a living operation. And whatever came next, it wasn't going to wait for me to come back. It was coming for the ones I left behind. Chapter 9, The Quiet Ones First. I wasn't there when the knock came. Wasn't there when the envelope hit the doormat. But I felt it. Miles away, crouched in a concrete safe house with maps and weapons laid out like a surgeon's tools, something in my chest clenched. Tight. Sudden. I've learned to trust that feeling. It never lies. Back home, the sky hung heavy over the ranch house, tall pines casting long shadows across the roof. The wind carried the kind of stillness you only notice when you're being watched. Emma felt it first. She'd been pacing, glancing out the windows, trying to pretend the silence was normal. But it wasn't. Kylie was in her room, headphones on, sketching in one of those journals I bought her last fall. Jimmy was in the kitchen, a book open in front of him, though I doubt he'd turn a page. Then it rang. Twice. No one ever rang twice. Emma checked the peephole. No one there. Just a white envelope sitting on the mat like it had always belonged. She opened it. Inside were 2 photos. One of Kylie at school. The other, Jimmy walking to the store near the corner. Both time-stamped. Both taken within the last 48 hours. No note. No signature. Just a silent message. We're watching. We're close. The house phone was dead. No signal on her cell. Exactly like I warned her it might happen. By the time the sun set, the power cut too. No storm. No warning. Just darkness. When the lights went out, Emma lit candles and locked every door. She tried to stay calm, but the moment she stepped into the living room, a USB drive was on a coffee table. It hadn't been there earlier. She plugged it into the laptop. The screen flickered. A blurred face appeared. AI distorted, calm, surgical. Mrs. Castillo, we hope you're enjoying your quiet time. You've done well keeping the children safe. That time is ending. Then the screen cut to a live feed. The front of the house. Then a thermal scan from the rear. You have 36 hours. No authorities. No media. No games. Or we'll come for what really matters. And don't count on Mario. He's already being handled. The feed went dark. Emma dropped the drive like it burnt. Jimmy wandered into the room, rubbing his eyes. Mom? Why is it so quiet? Emma tried to smile. Just a power outage, baby. Nothing to worry about. But her voice shook. Kylie stood behind him now. She hadn't heard the words, but she saw the fear in her mother's eyes. He's not here, is he? She asked. Uncle Mario. Emma couldn't answer. Kylie already knew. Then we're on our own. Back in Istanbul, I felt the shift like a gun cocking behind my back. The storm wasn't coming. It was already inside. And before I could reach the ones I swore I'd protect, Cerberus was going to remind me what it meant to bleed without lifting a weapon. Chapter 10, Protocol. She did both. They say you train for war, so the people you love don't have to. But that night, inside that quiet little house built from second chances and reinforced walls, the war came knocking anyway. And my niece answered like a damn soldier. I wasn't there to see it firsthand, but I've gone over the security logs since. Kylie spotted the flash drive first. Saw the way Emma flinched. The way the power cut just after the message played. She knew. Hell, she probably knew before Emma did. Where did this come from, she asked. Emma tried to lie. So it was junk mail. Kylie didn't buy it. She didn't panic. Didn't scream. She just moved. Straight to the laptop. Plugged it in. Played the message again. Jimmy stood behind her, silent. Processing. Emma sat in a chair, looking like she was watching the world collapse again. But Kylie? She moved. Fast. She sprinted to her room, yanked open her desk drawer, and pulled out the red flip phone I'd given her 2 years ago. Cracked case. One number saved. I told her, use this only when everything else goes dark. She hit send. Marcus Rain picked up on the second ring. You shouldn't have this number. Uncle Mario gave it to me, she said. This is Kylie. Something's wrong. She laid it out clean. The threats, the surveillance, the live feed of the street. And then she asked the one question that still sits in my gut. Are you sure he's okay? There was a pause. Then Marcus responded like only he could. He's still breathing, which means there's still a fight to win. Now, listen carefully. He activated Protocol 3. The safe room I built beneath the house wasn't just reinforced. It was layered, shielded, equipped with supplies, a hardened landline, and enough shielding to make any low-orbit satellite blind. Marcus gave her the code. Tapped the top left corner of the panel behind the water heater 3 times. It clicked open like it was waiting for her. Because it was. Kylie didn't waste time. We're going now, she told them. Basement. Safe room. Emma blinked. Confused. Scared. What are you talking about? Uncle Mario built it. Before we moved in. Jimmy didn't ask questions. Just grabbed the flashlight and followed her. Emma hesitated until Kylie grabbed her hand and pulled. Move. They made it into the basement. Kylie tapped the hidden panel. 3 times. Click. The wall creaked open, revealing a narrow corridor that led to the room I swore they'd never need, but prayed they'd find if they did. Inside were rations, water, a secure line, and a drawer with emergency gear marked with my old unit code. They sealed the door. Kylie took inventory. Jimmy sat near the water crate, holding Emma's hand. And in that moment, I wasn't the protector anymore. She was. I trained her for war, not so she could fight it, but so she'd survive it. And that night? Chapter 11, Ghost Protocol. The desert doesn't sleep. It waits. I was lying prone on a wind-scoured ridge outside Kandahar, staring through a battered scope at a compound that shouldn't have existed. Concrete. Steel. No lights above ground. No guards pacing the walls. Just stillness. The kind of stillness that screams. This wasn't a prison. It was a vault. And I was done letting them keep secrets inside it. I've been tracking the patterns for days. Drone drop zones, rotating personnel shipments, irregular comm bursts Marcus flagged on his end. Every clue pointed here. To this place. The Cerberus black site where ghosts went to be buried. Or worse, repurposed. I waited for the drone. Timed its descent to the minute. And when its engines howled across the horizon, I moved, low and fast, cutting across the dirt like smoke. Dropped a signal scrambler on the relay tower, Marcus's little toy. Gave me 30 seconds of blindness. That was enough. I reached the north vent shaft, popped the panel, and dropped inside. Inside was colder than I expected. Not just temperature, atmosphere. No voices, just a low hum of machines. The smell of sterilization and forgotten men. I moved through gray halls, each labeled with 2-digit codes and reinforced glass windows. Rooms empty. Files blank. Lives erased. Until I saw it. RK-47. I didn't hesitate. Pried the access panel open and jammed in Rain's decryptor. The door clicked. Inside, dim light. A bunk. A body. He looked like a ghost of the man I remembered. But I'd know those eyes anywhere. Major Mike Rourke. Alive. Barely. He sat on the edge of the bunk, eyes heavy but alert. You're not one of them, he rasped. No, I said. I'm the one they left with your shadow. He blinked. Castillo. I came to bring you home. His voice dropped to a whisper. You shouldn't have come. He looked toward the wall. Not at me. At something behind it. I followed his gaze. Camera. Hidden. Watching. Always watching. The ghost isn't just alive, Mario, he said. He's been working. The words chilled me more than the air ever could. I leaned in, kept my voice low. You've been feeding them intel? He shook his head. Weak. I've been fed lies. Like my son. They used me. Broke me. Said I was forgotten. That the op was scrubbed. That my son was gone. His voice cracked. You thought you were dead. I told him. They made sure of it, he said. Then I dropped the hammer. He murdered my family. Silence. Rourke looked me in the eye, finally. Then you already know what this place is. And what you have to do. I got him on his feet. Weak but moving. He didn't protest. Not when I opened the hidden panel on the far wall. Emergency tunnel. Mapped it 2 years ago during a recon run I never filed. It was time to use it. You good to move? I asked. Didn't survive hell to die in a hallway, he said with the faintest grin. We disappeared into the dark. Alarms hadn't tripped yet, but they would. Cerberus wasn't stupid. They'd noticed something was missing. And when they did, they wouldn't send suits. They'd send nightmares. Chapter 12, Ghost Protocol. Rourke was moving on instinct, half memory, half muscle. He should have been in a wheelchair. But there he was, stumbling beside me through the corridor like a man running on fumes and grit. Something wasn't right. We stopped at a junction, two paths diverging underground. One would take us out. The other? That one dipped lower, into places this facility didn't want anyone to see. I sat Rourke on a crate, watched him shake from pain, exhaustion, maybe something else. Talk to me, I said. What did they do to you? He blinked slowly, like trying to remember the shape of a thought. They called it a neuromatrix. Said it would rebuild what was broken. Nerves, spinal pathways, no more paralysis, no more limits. Did it work? He nodded, then hesitated. I can walk, but I can't feel. In the dreams, he swallowed hard. Sometimes I wake up, and I'm someone else. Places I've never been. Memories that don't belong to me. That's when it clicked. Mind fragmentation, neural imprinting, behavior engineering. Cerberus hadn't saved him. They'd rewritten him. I made a choice. We weren't leaving. Not yet. The research wing was barely guarded. They got complacent. Thought no one would ever come for what they buried here. I stole a key card off a half-conscious technician earlier in the op. Still warm in my pocket. Got us through the biometric lock. Inside was what I expected, and worse. I pried open the server panel, plugged in Rain's decryptor, and began the data pull. I read what I could while the rest offloaded to my drive. Operative neuroplastic conditioning. Memory wipe protocols. Subject are K-47. Integration phase 3. Inconclusive. Rourke sat in the corner, staring at the walls. You were never a rescue mission, I muttered. I know, he said. Just didn't want to believe it. The alarms hit then. Not loud, not flashing. Just subtle. A shift in the air pressure. Red lights blinking at half strength. Cerberus was waking up. I yanked the drive, stashed it in my chest rig, and helped Rourke up again. Time to vanish. You got what you came for? He asked. No, I said, but I got enough to start a fire. We took the emergency corridor to the exfil pipe, half a click through drainage tunnels, up to a dried-out creek bed. The truck I'd buried under camouflage netting was still there, somehow untouched. Rourke climbed into the passenger seat without a word. I hit the ignition. As the engine roared to life, I glanced over. Rourke stared out the window, hollow. They made me into something, he said, and I don't know if I'll ever figure out what. We will, I told him. And when we do, we're burning every name behind it off the face of the earth. And sitting against my ribs, the stolen SSD drive glowed faintly, still warm from the heat of 1,000 secrets. Chapter 13. Encroaching Shadows. Back home, the quiet wasn't peace. It was a warning. The safe room I built beneath the old house wasn't just steel and concrete. It was memory-proofed, pressure-sealed, phantom-certified, but it wasn't immune to ghosts. Emma was doing her best, holding it together for Kylie and Jimmy, but I knew the look behind her eyes. Fear dressed in practicality. The kind that doesn't scream, it whispers. Kylie was sharper than I ever expected a teenage girl to be. Not just smart, strategic, a quick learner, watching everything. Jimmy? Quiet but not clueless. That kid's got more instincts than some men I've bled beside. They didn't know what was coming, but I did. I wasn't there when the first envelope arrived. Emma told me about it later, voice cracking as she recalled the weight of it sitting on the doormat. No return address, just 2 photos inside. One of Kylie at school, one of Jimmy at the corner store. Both time-stamped within the last 2 days. No note, no name, just intent. Emma tried to call me. Landline was dead. Cell? No signal. Exactly what I warned her might happen. That night, the power went out. No thunder, no wind, just black. She lit candles, locked every door, triple-checked the windows. Then she found it. A USB drive on a coffee table. She swears it wasn't there before. She plugged it in because fear makes people do reckless things. And what she saw changed everything. A man, face blurred by distortion. Calm, cold. Mrs. Castillo, you've done well keeping the children safe. That time is ending. Then came the feeds. Live footage from the front yard. Then the back. You have 36 hours. No authorities. No media. No games. Or we come for what really matters. Don't count on Mario. He's already being handled. Handled. Their words. Like I was a problem already erased. Emma dropped the drive like it burned her. It should have. Because that wasn't a message. It was a timer. Kylie found the drive later. Emma tried to lie, tried to say it was nothing. But Kylie's not built for fairy tales. She plugged it back in, watched everything, and then she activated the protocol. Before I left, I gave her a flip phone. Cracked case. Red marker on the hinge. One number stored. I told her, use this only if the sky starts falling. She hit send. Marcus picked up. Of course he did. That paranoid bastard never sleeps. You shouldn't have this number. This is Kylie. Something's wrong. She told him everything. And Marcus? He moved faster than anyone in a suit ever should. Execute Protocol 3, he told her. Take your mom and brother to the basement. Panel behind the water heater. 3 taps top left. Get inside. Lock it down. She did exactly that. No hesitation. Just execution. She got them into the room I'd built with my own hands, the one I never wanted them to need. Steel-lined walls. Emergency comms. Rations. And one old landline no one knew about except me and Marcus. She wasn't scared. She was ready. She was me. Chapter 14, Protocol. When I trained Kylie, I thought I was giving her worst-case insurance. A way to feel safe if the world tilted sideways. Well, I didn't realize. I was building my legacy. And the moment she found that flash drive, she didn't freeze. She activated. I wasn't there, but I played the scene in my head 100 times. Jimmy, barefoot, rubbing his eyes, asking why it was so quiet. Emma, voice shaking, trying to keep it together. And Kylie, stepping into the role I never wanted her to have. She found the drive. She knew I hadn't left it. She plugged it in anyway. Watched the threat, the countdown, the surveillance. And then, without asking permission, without flinching, she ran to her desk and pulled out the flip phone. The red one. My backup plan in a cracked plastic case. She hit the only number saved inside. Marcus answered on the second ring. You shouldn't have this number. Uncle Mario gave it to me. This is Kylie. Something's wrong. God, I wish I'd heard the tone in her voice. I imagine it sounded like mine used to calm, cold, measured. She told him everything. The USB, the threats, the live surveillance feeds. I saw a thermal scan of our backyard, she said. They're watching us. Marcus didn't waste time. That's what I like about him. He might wear glasses and talk like a machine, but when it's go time, he flips the switch. Execute Protocol 3, he told her. Get your mom and Jimmy. Basement. Water, heater panel. 3 taps, top left. She did it without hesitation. The panel clicked open, just like I'd built it to. Inside was the safe room, shielded, wired, stocked. The kids didn't know every detail. That was by design, but they knew enough. Kylie locked the door behind them. And for the first time, she stopped being a civilian. She became an operator. Marcus deployed assets, 2 former Force Recon I'd vetted years ago. Quiet men, precise, invisible when needed. ETA, 10 minutes. But 10 minutes is a lifetime when the wolves are already circling. Above ground, 2 shadows breached the perimeter. Tactical gear, NBGs, suppressed weapons. These weren't Cerberus soldiers. They were subcontracted ghosts. No insignia, no fingerprints. Killers who operated in the space between morality and paycheck. Their orders were clear. Secure the house. Eliminate if needed. Retrieve the data. No witnesses. They approached the back patio door. One crouched, one covered. Glass cutter wind. A perfect circle traced. But I'd left something special behind. Boom. Not a kill charge. Just concussive. Enough to drop them and buy time. The tripwire sensor I installed 2 years ago had never failed me. Still hasn't. Down below, Kylie saw the flicker on the internal feed. They're here. Emma panicked. Jimmy didn't. He just looked at his sister and said, What do we do? Kylie responded the way I would have. We hold until backup gets here. And if they breach, she reached under the bench and pulled out the compact .380 I taught her to handle last summer. If they get through, I slow them down. You take Jimmy. You run. She didn't cry. Didn't tremble. She just stood her ground. 14 years old. And already a Castillo. Chapter 15, Truth in Fire. I was 7,000 miles away when it happened. Tending to a half-healed ghost in a crumbling safe house outside Kandahar. Bleeding from my side and pretending it didn't matter. The air stunk of diesel and sweat, and the walls whispered old secrets from wars no one admitted we fought. Major Mike Rourke sat on the cot behind me, staring at the flash drive like it held the weight of every mistake we'd ever made. It kind of did. "What happens if we go public?" he asked. I rinsed blood from my ribs, steam rising off the wound. Then Cerberus activates every failsafe they've got. They'll torch records, burn assets, erase names, make you disappear for real this time. And if we don't, then they keep doing it to others, turning men like you into weapons, disposable ones. I zipped the drive into a ballistic pouch and sat across from him. "We're not the only ones, are we?" He didn't answer. Didn't need to. Meanwhile, back home, my legacy was holding the line. Kylie, Jimmy, Emma, still breathing, still fighting. Barely. Marcus had deployed our people, force recon veterans. The kind of men who don't hesitate, don't need backup, and don't ask for medals. By the time they arrived, the first two shadows were still groaning in the dirt from the blast trap. The rest? Already in motion. One had made it inside. Wrong move. He ducked behind hallway arch and squeezed off a suppressed burst, blind firing into drywall. Marcus's team didn't fire warning shots. 2 in the chest. Center mass. Threat neutralized. Guardian actual. One of them called out. "House is clear." Moving to the safe room. They reached the access panel I installed under the stairs and keyed in the override Marcus transmitted. The door unsealed with a hiss. Inside, Kylie stood like a soldier. Pistol raised. "Blue light. Left hand," she ordered. The lead op raised his hand, glove glowing blue from his tactical LED. Only then did she lower the gun. "We're okay," she said, her voice shaky but unbroken. "We're okay." And just like that, my little girl wasn't a civilian anymore. She was an asset, and she just passed her first op. While all that unfolded, Marcus was back in Virginia, running a data war no one could see. He decrypted the Cerberus flash drive I'd recovered. His fingers moved like they were wired into the damn mainframe. No hesitation, no second guessing. Then his screen pulsed. File headers opened. Project Aegis. Neural Dominion. Ghost Vault files. Operation. Mirror frame. Then one that hit like a rifle, but to the gut. Subject. Castillo // shadow strain. He clicked it. Inside are my scans. My psych evals. Combat metrics. Kill ratios. Memory assessments. Behavior conditioning predictions. And a single directive that made my blood run colder than any bullet ever had. Monitor. Manipulate. Break. Use family leverage if required. Recondition subject or eliminate based on threat index. They didn't just want to kill me. They wanted to use me. And when they couldn't, they tried to shatter me. Marcus whispered it under his breath, but I heard it clear as day when the feed replayed later. They didn't fail to destroy him. They're still trying to turn him into something worse. Chapter 16, Broken Mirrors. I used to think the worst thing Cerberus did to me was bury my past. Then I saw the real files. They didn't bury anything. They planted it, watered it, shaped it into a weapon, and waited for it to bloom. And I was just another experiment. The captured operative, one of the ghosts that breached our house, was zip-tied and slumped in a folding chair in the garage beneath the property. The place still smelled like motor oil and copper from the blown tripwire. Marcus's team stood around him, tight-lipped and ready to end this if he so much as blinked wrong. I wasn't there yet, but Kylie was. So was Jimmy. And I was about to learn something new about the boy I thought I'd kept safe from all this. "So what happens now?" Kylie asked the lead gunner. "We wait. Marcus will want answers." Kylie folded her arms. Calm. Controlled. She's got a steadiness I didn't have at her age. Hell, I didn't have it until I came home to box. Well, someone better start asking questions. That's when Jimmy stepped forward. 12 years old. Soft-spoken. Bookish. And full of surprises. "I got this." Even Kylie blinked at him. But he walked right up to the prisoner, crouched down like he was examining a new math problem. "Hey," Jimmy said. "You're not supposed to be here, you know." The man tried to look tough. "You're just a kid." "Yeah, and you're not supposed to be alive." Gunner raised an eyebrow. "Okay, let's see where this goes." Jimmy kept going, calm as a ticking clock. "You're not CIA. Your gear's wrong. Your tags are ghosted. That puts you at contractor level. Cerberus adjacent. Probably paid in crypto, offshore, somewhere clean, but deniable." The man blinked, visibly rattled. "What kind of kid are you?" "The kind who knows a cover op when he sees one." and knows you still live streaming your vitals. That's when Gunnar held up the GPS tag they pulled from the guy's boot. Jimmy leaned closer, voice like ice now. We found your drone signal logs. So here's the deal. You talk, or we feed your buddy's bad data. Make it look like you flipped. The guy cracked. They always do. It's Tier 4 command. They're using proxy groups now. Cerberus isn't dead, it's splintering. Microcells. No need for a central network anymore. Just chaos. Kylie looked at Jimmy like she was seeing a stranger in her brother's skin. Emma? She looked like she finally understood what I'd been preparing them for all along. Uncle Mario's been training you? She asked. Only on weekends, Jimmy said with a shrug. That's when I knew. We were past the point of pretending this was ever going to be a normal life again. Back in Virginia, Marcus decrypted the last firewall on the Cerberus drive. What he found made my stomach turn. Files labeled Project Revenant. Operation Mirror Frame. Subject Castillo, Shadow Strain. Surveillance footage, brain mapping data, predictive behavioral models. And a recorded session. Rourke, sedated, half-lucid, sitting in a black room. A distorted voice spoke off-screen. We make him watch. We break him. When he's ready to kill again, we point him at whatever we want erased. Marcus didn't blink. He opened a direct, encrypted line to me. Because the worst part wasn't what they tried to do. It was what they were still trying to finish. Chapter 17, Loose Ends. Power doesn't die easy. It mutates, reinvents itself. And when you cut off the head of a monster like Cerberus, another grows in the dark. Thousands of miles away, in a place no one outside a black tier clearance level had ever heard of, the Real architects sat behind glass. Tier 4 command. Not soldiers, not killers. Planners. They didn't pull triggers, they pulled strings. Made people like me dance without knowing I was tangled. At the center of that table, in his ice-colored suit and cobra smile, sat Asa Maddox. The kind of man who'd never seen war, but wrote the footnotes on how it should feel. We have a breach, Maddox told them. Castillo accessed Tier 2 data from Kandahar. Our link to Rourke is severed. One of the voices, modulated and faceless, growled through the speakers. He should have been eliminated years ago. Maddox didn't flinch. Someone in this room overruled that directive. So now we deal with consequences. They show my picture. Kylie's. Marcus's. 3 names. 3 targets. These are the most dangerous people left alive. And then someone uttered the 2 words that changed everything. Bring in Maverick. Maverick. The prototype. The failed template they buried beneath every operation I was ever a part of. Not because he was weak, but because he worked too well. A shadow without conscience. Trained like me. Built before me. Operated without moral parameters. I was their upgrade. He was the original sin. In a forgotten kill house outside the system, Maverick trained alone, shirtless, moving like a precision weapon. Strike. Step. Breach. Eliminate. They handed him the file. Target. Mario Castillo. Clearance. Shadow code black. Permission. Absolute termination. He didn't ask why. He didn't blink. He just whispered. Time to finish what I started. And just like that, the monster they try to keep buried was unleashed. Chapter 18, the first draft. Before they built me, before Cerberus turned my grief into a weapon, there was Maverick. He wasn't some rogue agent gone bad. He was the blueprint. I watched the footage Marcus sent from an off-grid Cerberus kill house. Maverick didn't talk much. He didn't blink often either. Just struck at reinforced training dummies like they were made of tissue. No wasted movement. No theatrics. Just precision and force. Then a handler stepped into frame, nervous. Even he knew this thing in front of him wasn't human anymore. Your target is Mario Castillo. Shadow code black. Full kill authorization. Maverick looked up slowly, like he was hearing a memory, not a command. They finally let the draft off the leash, he muttered. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't the weapon they feared. I was the decoy. Maverick was what Cerberus always wanted. A soldier who didn't question. Didn't pause. Didn't care. They gave him the same playbook they gave me. Tactics, survival, ghost warfare. But they stripped him of everything that made a man a man. They erased his past, his morality, his voice. Left behind only obedience. I remember something Jonah Hale once told me after the mission in Syria went sideways. You can't fight someone who's already given up his soul, because you're still trying to survive. He's already chosen to die. That was Maverick. No chains, no code, just fire and mission. They loaded him onto a private Gulfstream bound for the States. Inside his duffel bag were disguised kits, scattered pistols, modified syringes, tools for the hunt. But clipped inside the folder, a picture of Kylie, circled in red. I knew then, he didn't need to kill her. He just needed me to watch it happen. Because this wasn't about death. It was about undoing me. Chapter 19. The Prototype and the Weapon. The deeper I dug, the clearer it became. Cerberus didn't create a weapon. They created a myth. Maverick wasn't a soldier gone rogue. He was the original draft of something too dangerous to keep breathing. And I was the fix. I sat alone in a concrete safe house buried somewhere between Afghan ridgelines, a satellite link burning red-hot through Marcus's secure channel. He looked pale on screen, bloodshot from sleepless nights and revelations no human should carry. I decrypted the last layer of the SSD, Marcus said. You're not going to like it. Just say it, I replied. You were never just an asset, Mario. You were a distraction, a cover model, something shiny they paraded around to hide the real legacy behind Cerberus. He tapped in a file. The screen split, and I saw it. Project Maverick. Subject 01. Operational history. Redacted. Objective. Castillo // shadow reclamation. Threat level. Omega. I felt it in my chest like a gut punch. They didn't build me to replace him. They built me so the world would stop looking for him. He's stateside, Marcus said. Private Cerberus jet dipped off radar over the Nevada corridor. Targets? No confirmation. But if I had to bet my life, he's going for your family. My blood turned cold. I was out here chasing shadows while the original prototype was circling back toward everything I still had left. I stood, grabbed my gear. I'm going home. Mario, Marcus started. No arguments. Line up a secure route. And Marcus. Yeah. If I'm too late, every name in that dossier burns. Rourke sat behind me on the cot, still pale, but watching. His voice rasped through cracked lips. Need a hand? I didn't ask for fast, I told him. Just forward. Still got fire left, he muttered. Enough to make them regret they left me breathing. I opened my duffel. Clicked the latches on a matte black travel case. The weapons inside weren't just tools. They were a promise. Because this wasn't about defending anymore. This was reclamation. And if Maverick was the ghost they sent to erase my legacy, he better pray he got to me before I got to him. Chapter 20. Exfil Protocol. Nightglass. There's a protocol we never talked about. Not even with Marcus. Not even with myself. Nightglass. The last door. The unspoken failsafe. A way to vanish my family if I fell off the edge of the map. Back at Phantom Circuit, deep in the red-level bunker, Marcus Rain stared into 6 glowing monitors. He'd been one step ahead of death since the first day he turned whistleblower, and tonight, he was a ghost conductor watching the chessboard ignite. Initiate Nightglass, he told his assistant. Sir, that protocol's restricted. Even you. Exactly. Confirm. Full exfil? Off-grid relocation? Signal wipe? Confirm everything. Kylie, Jimmy, Emma, ghost them all. No traces. Not even to me. While I tore across the desert heading stateside, the exfil went live. At exactly 3:06 a.m., 2 black SUVs, signal dampened, license spoofed, invisible to satellites, rolled up to a dummy property I'd flagged years ago as a burn site fallback. Inside the real house, Kylie answered a landline no one had used in months. Nightglass Protocol. Phase 1. Pack light. Burn the rest. She froze. That was the phrase I told her never to ignore. That's how she knew. It was real. Emma and Jimmy were already grabbing their go bags before Kylie even finished explaining. They didn't ask where we were going, just that I'd set it up to keep them breathing. Meanwhile, in the real Castillo home, what Cerberus thought was still occupied, my ghosts were moving in. Operators I trained myself. They laid down mimic beacons, heat signature projectors to fake bodies in motion. Loop nodes, replaying old camera footage to buy us minutes. Panic trails, clues meant to look like Kylie had fled in a hurry. And a trap in the basement bait. A USB drive. Fake, of course. A message burned onto the screen. You're good, but not good enough. MR. I knew Maverick would bite. He'd see the house, smell the trail, follow it. That's what predators do when you lay out fresh blood. But he didn't know one thing. We weren't running. We were resetting the board. Back in the Phantom Vault, Marcus watched it all unfold. He opened a direct line, one-time use, untraceable. A single message came through on my satellite comm. Night glass initiated. They're safe. For now. He's coming. Make your move. I stared at those 3 words for a long time. Because I wasn't ready for war. Not anymore. Now I was ready for annihilation. Chapter 21. The devil you left behind. Some devils you bury. Some you burn. But others? You call. The wind tore across the Nevada Badlands as I knelt beside a rusted lockbox buried under busted rebar and decades of regret. I dug through the dust, crowbar in hand, until the old steel snapped open. Inside, a sat phone, a burner tablet, and a short list of names most governments had blacked out of every ops file they could find. 6 names. I didn't need all of them. Just one. The one name Cerberus wouldn't expect. Jonah Hale. Once upon a time, Jonah was my shadow. Tier 1. Black Ops. No leash, no conscience, just fire and facts. Then came Damascus. An op gone sideways. Men burned alive. Orders twisted into something neither of us could live with. I followed the mission. Jonah followed the truth. He walked away with a scar across his shoulder and a promise never to stand beside me again. But I knew one thing about Jonah Hale. He hated the people who made us. And he hated Maverick more than he hated me. I dialed the sat phone. It rang once. Twice. If this ain't about burying a body, I'm hanging up. It's bigger than a body. A pause. A breath. You calling about Maverick? He's active. Stateside. Coming for me and the kids. Another pause. Longer this time. And you think I give a damn why? No. I think you give a damn what happens when he's done with me. Where? Charlie 9. 2 days. Come armed. I'm not coming for you, Mario. Wouldn't expect anything less. Click. As the silence returned to the canyon, I leaned back against the rocks and stared into the dusk. This wasn't a call for help. It was a declaration. I didn't need soldiers anymore. I needed ghosts who'd been burned like I had. People who didn't flinch when the system turned them into monsters. Jonah Hale? He was the first piece. The next 2? Even more dangerous. Because this time, I wasn't building a team. I was assembling a reckoning. Chapter 22. The Ghost That Walks Alone. Before there was me, before there was Maverick, there was Jonah Hale. He'd vanished years ago. No digital footprint, no satellite blip, just a whisper in the trees somewhere north of the Bitterroot Range. I figured he was dead. But ghosts like Jonah don't die. They isolate. The man who answered my call wasn't the same one I used to fight beside. He'd built a life out of silence. Barefoot in the snow, rifle always slung, scars mapped across his chest like a warning to anyone dumb enough to follow. But Jonah didn't scare easy. And he didn't forget. Especially not Maverick. Back in Syria, Cerberus classified it as a deep retrieval op. But we didn't know then what we were pulling out of that black site. The man they had in chains? The first experiment. Maverick wasn't broken when we found him. He was complete. They told us not to engage. Jonah did anyway. That mistake cost us 4 good men, including Garza, his best friend. A flashbang cooked Jonah's vest. A knife nearly ended him. And when it was over, Cerberus didn't give him a medal. They gave him a burn notice. He'd spent the last decade watching, digging through data streams, ghost codes, name changes, satellite skips, all tracing one name, Maverick. So when I called, when I said the word out loud, Jonah already knew. He never stayed dead, he muttered as he packed up a K-bar marked with Garza's initials. They just hit him better. In his bunker, he had weapons older than most wars, and a photo. Me, him, Garza. We looked like ghosts even then. Now, we were the cleanup crew. He left his cabin at dawn. Didn't look back. Didn't lock the door. He just whispered into the cold. All right, Mario, you called the devil back. Let's see if he still remembers your face. Chapter 23. Old Blood, New Fire. The sun bled out across the Arizona borderlands like someone slit the sky's throat. I arrived first. Didn't like it, but I needed the time to think. The Charlie 9 strip hadn't seen a plane in 20 years, just a rusted Cessna carcass, a cracked tarmac, and too many memories I never asked for. I checked the perimeter. Twice. Then I waited. Jonah Hale's truck rolled in slow, tires chewing through dust like teeth grinding bone. He stepped out before the engine finished dying, still wore that same unreadable scowl, the same worn boots, the same scar on his jaw from Damascus. No handshake, no words at first, just history. You're early, he said. Didn't want you thinking I flinched. He laughed. Dry. Bitter. You flinched the day you left me in that hellhole. That op was burned. You know it. And you let it burn with me still inside. You made your choice. And now you're making yours, dragging me back in because you're out of moves. I stepped off the Cessna's wing, closing the distance. No, I called you because I need someone who knows how to hunt monsters because he used to be one. His jaw flexed, but he didn't argue. We didn't need trust. We needed shared pain. And hate that we had plenty of. He dropped his go bag next to mine and pulled out a flask. So what's the play? Maverick's inbound. Cerberus cut the leash. He's not coming for justice. He's coming for blood. Yours? Eventually. But he's starting with my family. He took a swig, passed me the flask. Then we stopped waiting. We stayed up that night by the fire pit, maps between us breeze thick with grit and memory. Jonah traced old convoy routes, eyes scanning like he was back in country. He won't take highways, he said. He'll float through ghost towns, stay under every radar, like we used to. Think we can outplay him? No, but we can outlast him. That night, we didn't drink for the dead. We drank for the fire still left in us. Because Maverick thought we were relics. But relics survive. Relics don't forget. And when they strike, they leave craters. Chapter 24. The House of Smoke and Mirrors. The moment I left the house behind, I knew it wouldn't stay untouched. Maverick was too good, too patient. And worst of all, he thought like I did. He breached the front door like a ghost. No broken glass, no alarms tripped, no digital signature. Just drifted through the entryway like smoke through a crack in the wall. Everything we left behind had a purpose. Every object was a lie. The half-eaten granola bar. The coloring book left open. A boot print, juvenile-sized, angled toward the back door. Breadcrumbs. But Maverick didn't buy it like a rookie. He studied. He unraveled. Marcus had set the house up like a stage. Mimic beacons. EM scatter. Loop footage on the cams. I wanted him confused. Instead, he smirked. He found the shimmer in the hallway. Activated his embedded lens. The trail peeled away like static on tape. Nice try, he probably muttered. He went off script. Straight toward the safe room. That's where we laid the next lie. The blood smear on the wall. Corn syrup and iodine. The family photo, cracked near the stairs. Staged. The safe room door, left just slightly ajar. Just enough to make a predator think his prey had rushed the exit. He stepped inside. Empty. Of course it was. But what waited for him was a flickering laptop screen and a USB drive planted right where he'd have to look. You're good, but not good enough. MR. Marcus's little signature. Maverick stared at that screen. And he smiled. Because the house wasn't just bait. It was a message. We were ready. But what Marcus didn't know, Maverick had already planted a tag on the property days earlier. A passive transmitter buried under the deck trim, hidden beneath the subfloor. And now it was bleeding data, slow, careful pulses, intercepting exfil routes, packet by packet. Maverick wasn't playing chess. He built the dam board. Somewhere out there, as I waited in the desert, prepping the next phase, I felt the shift. Felt the ghost pass through the walls I used to call home. And I knew the storm wasn't coming. It was already here. Chapter 25. No margin for failure. We found a place 3 miles outside Sedona, an abandoned industrial shell from the Cold War days. Steel beams, crumbling catwalks, concrete floors cracked from heat and time. It was perfect, not because it was secure, but because it was a graveyard. And that's what I needed it to become. Jonah and I spent the day rigging every corner. Claymores along the outer path. Det cords laced through the stairwells. Sound traps. Flares. Scatter nodes Marcus shipped in through an old phantom circuit dead drop. Jonah checked the structural weak points. I mapped the directional acoustics. We were building a kill box, not a fortress. We weren't planning to hold Maverick off. We were planning to bury him. He finished the last charge along a rusted steel door and looked over at me. Secondary egress routes? Mostly sketchy. Sketchy's better than none. He grinned. You sound unsure. I didn't answer. I was. Later, while Jonah scoped the high north angle, I slipped behind a stack of busted girders and opened a burner phone I hadn't touched in 5 years. Not one of Marcus's. Not a phantom line. This one was legacy Blackwire. The kind of number you only dial when you're ready to gamble with hell. I scrolled to the only save contact. When all else fails. And typed. Incoming storm. Prepare asset. 3 minutes passed. Then a reply. Confirmed. Then a second message. Rally point? I hesitated for maybe 2 seconds, then replied. Force coming. Behind me, Jonas stepped out from the shadows. You really think we need another hand? No, I said. I think we need a backup plan for when our plan becomes a crater. He nodded. No sarcasm, just respect. You got a name? Someone off book, off record. Burned so deep, even Cerberus stopped looking. Even I don't know, especially you. He smirked. I respect the paranoia. It's not paranoia, I said, slipping the phone back into the pouch. It's insurance. The sun started to drop, turning the compound into a silhouette of broken spires and black windows. I laid the bait, an old briefcase filled with dummy data linked to Maverick's Cerberus file. Then I drew a blade across my forearm and dripped blood through the main corridor. He'd follow it. I would have. Jonah joined me up top, rifle slung. You think he'll come tonight? I didn't blink. No, I know he will. Why? I stared out across the killing field, my voice low, because this is exactly where I would have gone. Chapter 26, What We Inherit. Part 1, The Bunker. The Nightglass Vault wasn't just a safe room. It was a goddamn time capsule, buried deep in the mountains. Steel reinforced, EMP shielded, invisible to every eye except mine and Marcus's. But the ones who mattered most? They were inside. Kylie, Jimmy, Emma. Safe. Or as close to safe as any of us could be. What I didn't count on was what they'd find in there. Kylie ran her hand across a seamless steel wall. No hinges, no keypad, just stillness. Jimmy sat cross-legged with a flashlight, flipping through an old field manual I left behind years ago. A hardbound notebook, dog-eared, weathered, my handwriting all over it. He wrote this, Jimmy said. What do you mean? Kylie asked. It's not just training. It's not about the wars he fought. It's about the one we might have to. She knelt beside him. Flipped to the page I'd marked with a red thread. My own handwriting stared back at them. Contingency Protocol Alpha. Activate only upon total system collapse. I left that for them, because I knew one day, if I failed, they'd need to finish what I started. Kylie found the magnetic disc I tucked into the wall safe, pressed it against the steel. Click. Hiss. The hidden panel opened. Inside, a sealed case marked seed package, and a tablet already powered on, paused mid-video. She pressed play, and my voice filled the room. If you're hearing this, I either failed or I'm still fighting. This place isn't just a bunker. It's a legacy chamber. Everything they tried to erase, everything I've seen, learned, bled for, is here. Kylie, Jimmy, this isn't about carrying my war. It's about surviving yours. Part 2, The Hunt. While my niece and nephew were discovering the fire, I left them. Maverick was closing in. Somewhere on a highway buried in desert, he stood in a gas station bathroom, staring into a cracked mirror. Blood on the glass. Static in his headset. But what he was really scanning? Frequencies. He wasn't using the radio to talk. He was hunting. And he found something. Not a signal. Not a person. A black pocket. A silence shaped like me. Exactly the kind of digital void I used to hide families inside. Gotcha, he probably whispered. He stepped out, climbed into a stolen Jeep, drove off into the dark like a curse waiting to be spoken. Back in the bunker, Kylie stared at the seed package. Inside were keys, identity scramblers, and a final phase activation tied to one person's blood. Mine. Jimmy looked up at her. Are we supposed to be soldiers? Kylie didn't answer. She didn't have to, because what we leave behind isn't always peace. Sometimes, it's a warning. Chapter 27, Checkmate in Progress. The sky over Redline was that perfect kind of black, velvet and charged, like it knew a storm was coiled just over the horizon. Jonah and I moved like old ghosts through the skeletal remains of a factory that hadn't breathed since the Reagan years. Rusted catwalks, cracked tile, rat nests in the corners. But to us, it was sacred ground, not because of what it used to be, but because of what it was about to become. A kill zone. Our kill zone. Jonah rigged the south stairwell while I laid the final tripwire by the boiler tanks. Claymores, sound-dampening mines, directional flares, pulse scatter nodes synced to Maverick's optic profile. Marcus had fun building those. But we didn't come here to show off tech. We came here to end a war and bury a ghost. I placed a bait briefcase inside a rusted panel in the compound's lowest corridor, linked with just enough false data to make Maverick salivate. Meanwhile, I cut shallow along my arm. Drip blood every 10 feet. Like breadcrumbs. He'd track me by scent if he had to. I would have. Jonah joined me on the rooftop. We said nothing for a while, just stared across the field of shadows we'd sculpted into a grave. Then he asked low, "You think he'll come tonight?" I didn't blink. Yeah. Why? Because this place is exactly where I would have gone. What Jonah didn't see, what even Marcus hadn't been cleared for, was that we weren't alone. A mile out, buried in the dust, the wild card moved into place. No radio, no comms, just a modified loadout and a list of kills long enough to make Cerberus shudder. His orders? Wait. Watch. Finish the fight. Only if I fall. We weren't betting on winning. We were betting on timing. Inside the kill zone, Jonah loaded his sniper rig and clicked him behind a half-collapsed beam, the elevation giving him just enough arc to cover both west and south entry points. I double-checked my pistol and the scatter node transmitter duct taped to my belt. Last resort measure. This was it. We weren't heroes. We were cleanup men. And somewhere out there in the dark, the ghost I trained was already moving. Final lines / cliffhanger. A flicker on the outer motion sensor, just one blink. Then stillness. And just out of reach, a shape moved like smoke on broken glass. Maverick had arrived. Chapter 28, The Kill Box. The moment the click echoed near the northern loading bay, I knew. He was in. I didn't move. Didn't even breathe. Jonah stayed quiet above me in the rafters, scope trained, trigger finger light. Maverick didn't make mistakes. But I didn't build this place to catch him slipping. I built it to slow him down just long enough. The first trip sensor was disguised as a chunk of broken rebar by the stairwell. He stepped over it. Of course he did. Didn't matter. That wasn't a trap. The real one was rigged to the air vent near his flank. When he stepped into the corridor, click, a directional flare burst sideways from the rusted ductwork, lighting the hall in a blinding strobe of white. He didn't flinch, dropped to one knee, launched a blade, straight into the corner. Steel hit steel. No scream. No shout, but I felt him smile. Sloppy Mario, he muttered, loud enough for the walls to hear. West corridor. I activated the pulse scatter. The hum kicked in, just a subtle vibration at first, then a high-frequency wave that messed with optic calibration. Jonah had a clean bead. Pulled the trigger. Crack. The round tore through Maverick's shoulder. Perfect shot. Didn't drop him. Just made him mad. He vanished into the steel skeleton of the floor beams. Moved like smoke. Dead silent. We lost eyes on him. Jonah whispered in my ear. Winged him. Didn't slow him. Wasn't supposed to, I said. Right? Just to piss him off. Now it was chess. And we were both kings walking toward the same fire. I looped through the old boiler corridor. Sensors on full alert. Caught a boot print. Still warm. That's when the hairs on my neck stood up. Too late. A blade whistled past my cheek, embedding in the concrete post behind me. I dove left. Rolled. 3 shots fired from my pistol, silenced. Ping. Ping. Nothing. His voice drifted down from the ductwork above. You were never the real me, Mario. No, I called back. I'm a version that kept his soul. Another trap blew. This one a fire burst I'd rigged by the maintenance alcove. Caught the tail of his coat. He peeled it off mid-step like dead skin. Still moving. Still smiling. Jonah patched through again. He's bleeding. I replied. Good. Let him follow the scent all the way to hell. But what Maverick didn't know, the last trap wasn't inside the complex. It was outside. And he, wild card, was already in position. Final lines / cliffhanger. From the ridge beyond the kill zone, eyes behind matte black optics tracked Maverick's heat signature through the dust. No radio. No signal. Just breath. And a trigger. Waiting. Chapter 29. The Ones Who Won't Break. Concrete shattered under our boots. Dust on my eyes. Blood soaked through my side, warm and steady. Maverick moved like death on instinct, brutal, fast, unrelenting. I match him move for move. Barely. Every strike felt like it carried a chapter of everything they did to us. Every counter was my refusal to be erased. He grinned as he slammed me into a rusted beam, breath hot, wild eyes locked on mine. You're slipping, soldier. I gasped, twisted free, and elbowed him square in the kidney. "So are you." He didn't flinch. Neither did I. We tore through a pile of broken machinery, fists cracking against steel, blood mixing in the dirt. There was no technique anymore. No strategy. Just survival. The only thing separating us. I still had a soul. Jonah's voice crackled in my ear from above. "Take the shot, come on." But I hadn't given the word. Because this part was mine. Unless I failed. Maverick slammed me down again, knees on my shoulders, knife drawn from his boot. He drove it in a wide arc. I barely blocked it. The blade skidded off my forearm and rang against the floor. He leaned in, whispering, "Pain makes you honest." I spit blood, then drove my knee in his groin, rolled him off, and landed a crushing elbow to his throat. He coughed, then laughed. That laugh. That hollow, rage-fueled sound Cerberus engineered. Suddenly, Jonah dropped in from above like a damned sledgehammer. His boots cracked against the floor behind Maverick. The bastard turned. Eyes widened. "You?" Jonah grinned, bruised and bleeding. Still breathing. 2-on-1 now. Me and Jonah. Ghosts from the same fire. Maverick staggered, eyes wild, adrenaline twitching. "You think this changes the outcome?" he barked. I circled to his left. Jonah to the right. "No," I said. "But it ends it faster." Jonah cracked his neck. "One way or another, this ends tonight." From the ridge, Wild Card tracked everything. Scope locked. Still waiting. Just like I told him. Only if I fall. Final lines / cliffhanger. 3 men stood in a graveyard of metal and memory. 2 for blood. 1 for legacy. And above them, a breath held. A finger resting on the trigger. Chapter 30, Ghosts, Blood, and Origin. Every breath burned. My ribs felt like gravel. My fists couldn't close anymore. Blood from Maverick's last hit dripped into my eye, but I didn't blink it away. I needed to see him clearly. Because this was it. No more traps. No more tech. Just me and the ghost I helped create. He surged again, knee to the gut, forearm to my throat. I slammed him back with a shoulder pivot, cracking him into a rusted girder. We both fell. Dust choked the air. We scrambled to our feet, fists flying. No strategy now. No finesse. Just violence. And memory. He landed a shot to my temple that made the world go gray. I dropped, rolled, kicked his knee sideways. Heard the pop. He screamed. Didn't fall. Goddamn Cerberus made sure of that. Above us, Jonah watched from the catwalk. Rifle drawn. No clear shot. Too much blur. Too many bodies. "Screw it," I heard him mutter. He vaulted the railing and landed behind Maverick like a wrecking ball. 2-on-1 again. We drove him back, Jonah hammering ribs, me pummeling high. Maverick wasn't laughing anymore. He was surviving. Barely. "You think this is justice?" he snarled, bleeding from his mouth. "No," I grunted. "It's closure." Then he clipped me with an uppercut that blacked out half my vision. I went down hard. Air gone. Head swimming. He raised his knife again. "Last words, soldier," he hissed. "Something touching for the family I'm going to visit next?" My voice cracked, but it was steady. "Yeah. See you in hell." And then, the shot. Boom. Not a rifle crack. A cannon. A goddamn thunderclap from heaven itself. Maverick's chest exploded mid-breath. Not pierced. Not torn. Erased. Smoke. Fire. Blood. Half his body gone in an instant. The rest slumped, twitching, collapsing like the myth he was. I rolled onto my side, coughed hard, and forced myself upright. Jonas staggered toward me, hand on his ribs. "You good?" I nodded. "Barely." "He's down." "Holy hell," he muttered. "Didn't think we'd make it." We stood over what was left of Maverick. His eyes were still open, still full of hate, but empty now. Jonah looked at me. I looked at him. And in unison, we said, "Rest in hell." About an hour later, after we wrapped wounds and collected what little gear wasn't soaked in blood, we dug a pit with our hands and shovels. No eulogy. No markers. Just a hole. And fire. Wildcard approached from the ridge. Rifle slung over his shoulder like a casual secret. "Built around myself," Jack said. 20 mil incendiary proximity fuse. Took 6 months. Jonah scoffed. "Overkill." "Nah," Jack grinned. "Exactly the kill." I looked at him. "Thanks for showing up." He shrugged. "Would have come sooner. But I figured you two had something to work through." Jonah lit the thermite. Tossed it in. The pit lit up like a star being born. White hot. Final. We stood there, Three ghosts watching the last shadow burn. No cheers. No handshakes. Just silence. Earned. The kind that comes when the war ends. Even if it leaves pieces of you buried with the body. Final lines / chapter cliffhanger. Maverick was gone. Cerberus was bleeding. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel haunted. Just done. Chapter 31. The Red Room. I've learned silence can be louder than any explosion, especially the kind that lives behind keyboards and kill orders. While we were bleeding in the dust, someone else was preparing the next war from behind screen. That someone was Marcus Rain. He sat in the glow of Phantom Circuit's underground ops center, bathed in red light. Not because it looked cool, because Redmint Omega Directive was ready. The last button, the one we hoped we'd never press. My face blinked onto his screen, recorded hours earlier. Bruised, bloodied, but clear-eyed. Marcus, if you're seeing this, then the Maverick Op is in motion. Maybe I made it. Maybe I didn't. Either way, what comes next can't wait. Attached was the decrypted Tier 4 command list. Every Cerberus puppet master. Every name. Every shadow. It was time to erase them. He didn't hesitate. He typed the command. Initiate. Phantom Strike / code. Omega. Target. Global. Tier 4 command. Format. Contractor / silencer network / cleaner cell. Engage. And just like that, the death clock started ticking. Around the world, quiet men and women answered the call. One in Istanbul lit a burner phone, grabbed a suppressed pistol, and walked out of a mosque. One in DC erased her credentials and picked up a violin case that didn't hold a violin. One in Nairobi pulled a straight razor from a bread loaf and whispered, "For Mario." The hits began. Silently. Efficiently. Relentlessly. Back in Virginia, Marcus watched the feeds. No satisfaction in his eyes. Just resolve. And then, he did what no one else would have done. He checked the live satellite feed from our battlefield. And he saw me. Jonah. The smoke. The body. I like to think in that moment, he realized we'd survived. Not because we were lucky, but because we were unfinished. Somewhere on that ridge above the carnage, wildcard, Jack, lowered his scope. Said nothing. Just cleaned the breach. And waited. Because he knew there was always another mission. Final lines / chapter cliffhanger. I'd pulled the trigger on Cerberus's brain. Marcus had pulled the trigger on its heart. And Maverick? That bastard was already ashes. But deep in the dark, something was still breathing. Chapter 32. Rest in Hell. It ended the way all wars do. Not with justice. Not with redemption. But with blood. And smoke. Maverick stood over me, knife in hand, breath calm, eyes wild. I could barely move. My lungs were on fire. My ribs were cracked. He smiled like he'd already won. Last words, soldier. I coughed blood and looked him straight in the eye. Yeah, see you in hell. And then, boom. A sound like God's own thunder ripped through the sky. Maverick's chest detonated. He didn't fall. He vanished. Fire. Steel. Vaporized meat. That's what was left of him. I don't remember standing up. I just remember the silence afterward. I limped over to Jonah, who was bleeding and half-conscious, propped against a chunk of rebar and rust. I reached out. He grabbed my hand. "He gone," he rasped. "Yeah," I said. "Good. You look like shit." Right back at you. We stood over what was left of him. His body was half a man. Face burned. Chest open. Eyes still twitching. Somehow still alive. Somehow still hating. Jonah and I looked down on him. And together, we said, "Rest in hell." An hour later, we buried him. Dug a pit with shovels, boots, and spit. Then Wildcard showed up. Still grinning. Rifle slung, boots clean. 20 mil, he said. Custom round. Incendiary, proximity fuse. Took me 6 months to get it perfect. Jonah grunted. "Overkill." "Exactly the kill," Jack replied. I tossed a final thermite charge into the hole. White-hot fire roared up like a phoenix that hated everything. The body burned. The nightmare died. Jonah stood beside me. Jack stood behind us. No salute. No prayers. Just 3 ghosts watching another go up in smoke. "It's over," I said. Jonah didn't argue. Because we both knew. It had to be. Final lines / chapter cliffhanger. We didn't win. We survived. And in this world, that's more than most get. Chapter 33. The Cleanup. Dawn hit different when the war was over. No gunfire. No shadows moving through fog. Just quiet. That kind of quiet you can't trust yet. Jonah leaned against a rusted-out cargo container, arm in a sling, blood dried on his shirt. He looked like hell. Jack sat nearby, disassembling that 20 mm monster like it was a toy, humming like this was just another Tuesday. Me? I stood by the old tower ruins, holding a comms tablet linked to Phantom Circuit's vault. Marcus answered after one ring. His face was tired. His eyes weren't. Mario. Marcus. Status. Maverick's done. Confirmed. Jonah's alive. Jack's still a lunatic. I'm upright. Barely. Off-screen, I heard Jack mutter, "You're welcome." Marcus didn't smile until I asked about the real win. The Omega Directive? He nodded. 12 out of 13 tier, 4 targets eliminated. Marrakesh went dark. We sent a team. Shouldn't be a problem. Revenant. He exhaled. That told me everything. We found fragments. Matching headers. Project was deeper than we thought. We took down infrastructure. But the concept, that's still alive. Somewhere. Figures. These bastards never stop at failure. They adapt. What about the final message? I asked him. He glanced off screen, tapped a few keys, then looked back at me. Already in motion. Seed remains sealed. Relay scrubbed. Your family safe. Those words hit harder than any bullet ever could. Where? Marcus smirked. Nice try. Nightglass protocol. Need to know. I'm calling him I need to know. He laughed. I'll send coordinates when you're airborne. I gave him a nod. Thanks for getting them out. For everything. He didn't answer right away. Just watch me. Then, don't thank me yet. You're still on the hook for what comes next. I chuckled. Of course I am. When the call ended, Jonah limped over. So, that it? For now. You going soft on me? Only long enough to hug my niece and nephew. Jack closed the case on his rifle, stood up, grinning. If any of those tier 4 roaches crawl back, I've got a backup rifle. We'll call it Plan Z. We packed up. Sun climbing slow. Desert cooling off. I looked back once just to remember the silence. Not to mourn it. To earn it. Final lines / chapter cliffhanger. 2 towns over, the old house was being rebuilt. Not as a home. As a warning. But the new one? That's where I was headed. Because the war was over. And it was time to go home. Final lines / chapter cliffhanger. 2 towns over, the old house was being rebuilt. Not as a home. As a warning. But the new one? That's where I was headed. Because the war was over. And it was time to go home. Chapter 34, Coming Home. The engine hum of a military transport has a rhythm to it. Like a lullaby for men who've crawled through hell and still had something left to come back to. I sat in the cargo bay, blood still dried on my knuckles, the last of Maverick's war buried in my duffel bag. Just me, a SATCOM tablet, and the silence I'd earned. Marcus came on screen. Red light behind him. Always red with him. Coordinates sent. Night glass vaults unlocked. You're clear to enter. I nodded. How bad's the house? Took some hits. Foundations cracked from the traps. Roofs blown in 3 places. But the safe room held. ETA on repairs. 2-3 months. If you want it livable. I sat back, thinking, maybe it's time to move on. The old place has got too many ghosts. Wanting to compile options? Yeah, bigger. Safer. Somewhere they can grow up without looking over their shoulders. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Home, huh? Yeah, real home. For all of us. Then I asked the question that's been sitting in my gut since the fire died down. Revenant, any movement? Marcus hesitated. Bad sign. We pulled partial files. AI clusters tied to Cerberus. They auto-wiped after Tier 4 command fell. So we didn't kill it. We unplugged the machine. But the idea? Still breathing. That's what I figured. When we landed at the Nightlast bunker, I didn't waste time. Massive steel doors scanned my iris and opened like the gates of some hidden fortress. Inside, polished concrete reinforced everything in a hum that felt more alive than anything I'd heard in months. Down the hall, Kylie, Jimmy, Emma. Kylie spotted me first. Uncle Mario. Jimmy bolted right after. They hit me like a freight train made of hugs and memories I thought I'd never feel again. I dropped to one knee, arms wide, soul wide open. I didn't cry, but I felt something shake loose in my chest. Something I'd locked away for too long. Emma walked over, quiet, cautious. She didn't need to say anything. We hugged. That was enough. Later that night, I sat across from the kids. Kylie had the seed tablet in her lap. Jimmy had my old training manual, fingers thumbing the bent corners. Their eyes weren't full of fear, just questions. Kylie broke the silence. That man, Maverick, he wasn't just a killer, was he? No, I said. He was made to be one. Jimmy looked at me. Were you made like that? No, but they tried. They thought they could shape me the same way. Kylie swallowed hard. Are we going to become like you? I met her eyes, held them. Only if you choose to. But if you do, you'll have something Maverick never had. What? Each other. Final lines, series wrap up. The wind howled outside the bunker walls, but inside it was still. Not broken, not hiding, just still. And below us, sealed behind titanium and firewalls, the last seed file blinked open. A final ghost I hadn't faced yet. But that's a story for another day. Epilogue, the quiet between battles. The new house wasn't big, wasn't flashy, but it was built to outlast the next war. Concrete base, steel bones, bullet-resistant glass, off-grid solar, a buried safe room wired directly into Marcus's ghost net. No doorbells, no smart assistants, no leaks. To the world, it looked like a modern cabin tucked in the pines of Northern California. To me, it was sanctuary. The war was over. For now. Kylie's back in school. She's sharp, curious, always watching. She doesn't speak much about what happened, but she carries herself different now. Stronger, leaner, a quiet kind of brave. Jimmy's knee-deep in robotics again. When I ask about it, he just shrugs and says it's nothing. But I've seen the schematics. He's building something smarter than anything I ever touched in the field. I leave them be. They've earned the right to live. We kept the old house, 2 towns over. It's being rebuilt, reinforced. But it's not home anymore. Now it's a decoy, a trap, a warning to anyone who thinks ghosts don't leave teeth behind. Tonight, after everyone went to bed, I sat in the study. Just me, a tape player, and a cassette I never had the courage to listen to. The label was old, smudged ink. For you, in case I'm not there. Sophia's handwriting. My hand trembled a little when I pushed play. Her voice came through, soft, warm, stubborn as hell. Hey babe, if you're hearing this, you're being stubborn. Surprise. She laughed, and it almost broke me. Look, I know you don't like talking about worst-case scenarios, but life doesn't wait for permission. And if something ever does happen, I need you to remember one thing. A pause, a breath. You're not a monster. You never were. You're the man who made me feel safe in a world I never trusted. The man who loved without asking for anything back. So please, don't let grief become your shield. Let someone in, even if it's just a little. Even if they don't know what it looks like. You have so much love left, Mario, and you deserve to give it. The tape clicked off. I didn't cry, but I sat there for a long time. I shut, head bowed, breathing in the weight of everything she was and everything she believed I still could be. Later, I stepped out onto the back deck. The wind was calm, stars overhead, pine trees swaying in silence. Inside, I could hear Kylie laughing in her room, Jimmy tapping keys at his desk, Emma humming in the kitchen. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel haunted. I felt ready. Not for another fight. Not for revenge. Just ready for what comes next. Final lines. Sophia was gone. The war was over. But my heart, still beating. And maybe, just maybe, it would belong to someone again. But for tonight, it belonged to home. This has been Echoed Stories, where every echo has a story. Where are you listening from? City, state, country? What time of day is it for you? Drop a comment, hit like, and subscribe if this story spoke to you. New stories every week.